Have you ever heard of a bank heist so monumental, so brilliantly orchestrated that it flew completely under the radar? Imagine billions of dollars disappearing into thin air and the world barely whispers about it. Why is that? This is the greatest bank heist in history, one you've never heard of. This heist outshines any you have heard of, not by the force of arms, but through sheer cunning and under-the-radar operations. This isn't your typical smash and grab. It's a sophisticated symphony performed by maestros of the underworld. In just 2 hours and 1,600 fake credit cards later, $13 million is gone. Let's set the scene. The year was 2016, a period when the world was still reeling from the financial earthquake of the recession. Banks were vulnerable, their defenses focused on the visible threats. Little did they know, a group of criminals were plotting the unthinkable, not to rob a single bank, but to infiltrate an entire banking system. The plan was simple yet audacious. First, gain access to the banking network. This wasn't done through a dramatic break-in, but silently through the cyber backdoor. Next, manipulate the records. These criminals weren't after the cash in vaults. They targeted the digital zeros and ones that represent money in the modern world. For months they observed, learned the systems, and waited. Patience was key. Then they struck, not in one glorious swoop, but through thousands of tiny transactions, siphoning off millions without a single alarm bell ringing. A South African bank became a victim of a bank heist 10,000 miles away, after a group of criminals stole $13 million out of cash machines on another continent using fake South African credit cards. These maestros used around 1,600 forged cards to withdraw the money from 1,400 individual cash machines across Japan, according to local media. The cards were allegedly created using data stolen from the South African Standard Bank Group, which has no apparent connection with Japan. But how did they do it without leaving a trace? It took the group just over 2 hours to steal the money from the Standard Bank, withdrawing the maximum amount of 100,000 yen, which is $913, in 14,000 individual transactions. The bank estimated its total loss at 300 million South African rand, which is $20 million, and called the heist a sophisticated, coordinated fraud incident. The thieves used a network of ATMs run by 7 banks across Japan. Imagine 1,400 individual cash machines in 2 hours in different locations. How well planned, each one playing a tiny part in this grand theft. To stay ahead, they used sophisticated hacking tools and an intimate understanding of financial systems to stay ahead. But wait, why haven't you heard about it? Banks, for one, aren't keen on broadcasting their vulnerabilities. And the criminals, their silence is bought with the untraceable wealth they've amassed. So where's the twist? Who are they? And how did they manage to leave untraced? The plot thickens with an organization that mastered the dark art of identity fabrication. They didn't just steal identities. They conjured up 7,000 fake personas like a magician pulling rabbits out of a hat. But how did they do it? Let's peel back the layers. First, the groundwork. Picture an elaborate web of fake documentation spinning across the credit universe. Each false identity was a carefully crafted character, complete with a history, credit profile, and financial footprint. The fraudsters played the long game, nurturing these identities. They fed fabricated information to credit bureaus, a slow poison that inflated the credit scores of these phantoms to sky-high levels. But why? The end game wasn't just about creating ghosts. It was about what these ghosts could acquire. Enter thousands of credit cards, the keys to the kingdom. With high credit scores, these invisible borrowers could unlock vast sums of money. The scam unfolded in a cascade of transactions, each one a stroke of genius in the dark world of fraud. Money was borrowed but never intended to be returned. As the plot thickens, we witness the audacity of building an empire on a foundation of lies. An empire that, at its peak, swindled lenders out of $13 million. Let's dive deeper into the mechanics of this elaborate scam. Imagine walking into a bank, but instead of you, it's someone wearing a mask that looks exactly like you. That's what these fraudsters did, but on an industrial scale. The false identities were just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface, there was a labyrinth of fake companies, phantom charges, and fictitious revenue streams. Every borrowed dollar was a piece of the puzzle, expertly placed to maintain the illusion. But like any illusion, it required constant attention and adjustment. It wasn't just about borrowing money, it was about creating a believable world where these ghostly identities could exist unchallenged. But every empire has its downfall. The cracks began to show, and the house of cards started to crumble. Ironically, the downfall of this heist wasn't the law, but greed. The criminals turned on each other, and as they did, the first threads of this tale came to light. This story isn't just about the heist. In our digital world, our wealth, our security, everything is just data. Data that can be altered, stolen, or even erased without a trace. Let's circle back to our original question. Why hasn't this story found its way to the front pages of every newspaper, every news channel? Because sometimes the truth is so unbelievable, it's easier to ignore, because acknowledging it means admitting we are all vulnerable. So what do you think? And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the shadows of our banking systems, hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more intriguing tales from the dark side of finance. Until next time, keep your data safe and your curiosity alive.